We are back. Zzzax of Live podcast. I am Mac. With me from Hong Kong right now is Kyle Burbank. Just world traveling, just coming to us 12 hours ahead right now, getting up early in the morning to do this because he's that dedicated.
I tried to keep with the theme of the show. I was time slipping and figured that I should come from the future.
How is the future? How many episodes of Loki have you seen now?
Still just the two. I thought that maybe because it says new episodes Friday on Disney Plus here, I thought maybe it would arrive at, midnight Hong Kong time. That would have been fantastic. But no, it waited all the way until 6 p.m. Pacific time to show up.
Makes sense. Yeah, they just drop at the same time worldwide. This is the Zzzax of Live podcast, a Marvel podcast from Laughing Place. We are going to break down the first two episodes of Marvel's Loki on Disney Plus. First two episodes of the second season. It's really weird that this is the first time we're dealing with a season 2, and I like the verbiage I've had to write so many different times has really thrown me off. So,
continue the Mandalorian just continued with chapters, even though it's different seasons. There's like 17, 18. But you could go with that route. Just take it.
I might have to. I don't like the naming of the episode title for us here because I got to use the word episode twice, so wasn't a fan of that. But so things are a little bit different, as you may have noticed. Again, Kyle is in Hong Kong. First of all, that's the big difference. But yeah, we missed last week. Just busy schedules getting in the way. So we're going to have 2 episodes to recap this week. We're going to catch up on 2 months worth of Marvel news. Which is actually not all that much because there were, I don't know, maybe you heard about it. There were a few strikes going on. So not too much to catch up on, but we'll have a little bit. No games today. We'll get back to that hopefully pretty soon. Again, schedules are still going to be a little bit weird going forward, but we'll get back to our original format in the future. Before we get into everything though, Kyle, what are you doing in Hong Kong?
So if people are theme park fans, they might know that World of Frozen is coming to Hong Kong Disneyland. Officially opens November 20th. And yesterday they let stupid old me into the park to check it out. So I got to go do that, and that's why we're here. And then after this, we're going to an even weirder and perhaps more humid climate. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's Marvel. We rode Ant-Man and the Wasp, that ride yesterday, which we'd done before, but it's been years. Last time we were here was 2019. They have a really cool Marvel section with Stark Expo. So we haven't gone on Iron Man experience, I think is what it's called. Iron Man experience. We haven't gone on that yet, but we're going back to the park tomorrow. So we'll go do that. But we did the Ant-Man and the Wasp. And it's a makeover of Astro Blasters, which is also like what's the one in
Space Ranger Spin?
Yeah, except the difference here is, yes, you can pick up your blaster like you can in California, and you can actually see your laser. I can tell what I'm shooting at in this one. It's really cool.
That does help a lot.
And there's haptics in the gun as well, so you can feel when you hit a target. It's a nice little upgrade.
Ooh, that is nice, yeah. Not like... I guess the ones here make a sound at least, so they give you some sort of idea that you're hitting a target, not just shooting at nothing the entire time.
There are these really minimalist Marvel shirts that I saw here. One of them just says like, "The truth is, I am Iron Man." It's like the only thing on the shirt. Another one says, "Ant-Man and the Wasp are teaming up," and it has an exclamation point. And then the back of the shirt has a little ant and a wasp. That's it.
Wait, a little ant and not Ant-Man, it's just an ant?
Yeah.
And it's a wasp.
I'm pretty sure, right, Becca? Was it just an ant, or was it actually Ant-Man?
It was an ant. It was an insect.
It was an insect. I'll take pictures tomorrow when we go back.
I was going to say, I'm going to need some pictures. I may need you to pick me up a few shirts while you're there. So Kyle has some exciting stuff going on over in Hong Kong. Keep an eye out on laughingplace.com for all of the updates from that. I will just say the climate in my room or my office here is very nice. So that's the climate that I'm dealing with. Let's get into the Marvel news. Like I said, for the past 2 months, we haven't done an episode here since Secret Invasion wrapped up, which feels like a long, long time ago. Apparently, it was only about 2 months. It, again, feels longer, but we haven't had a long layoff like that really since we started doing this show because this year has been a little bit
How
different.
did you call it a layoff? We go on furlough every time there's not a Marvel show.
A hiatus. Sorry, a sabbatical.
You're on
No,
sabbatical.
we haven't had a long break like that because there's been consistent Disney Plus content from Marvel Studios over the past couple of years, and this year has been a little bit different. And we're looking at some more delays, as we'll talk about a little bit in the news here. Let's do this like we normally would when we do come back from a break. We have a lot of news to catch up on. This time, again, not too much because, there were some strikes happening, not a lot of stuff going on in Hollywood. So not too much news, but I'm still going to run through this as quickly as I possibly can. Kyle, you don't have to worry about timing me this time.
I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay,
although
right.
next time I request that you set it to the tune of "We Didn't Start the Fire." Is that a thing that we can do?
Wow. That would take a lot of prep beforehand. I'm not opposed, though. That's something we could possibly try.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm going to time you anyway, so just say go.
All right. Here we go. Marvel's in-house podcast team was cut in half by layoffs. Marvel Multiverse role-playing game launched. Marvel Studios VFX workers voted to unionize. The new I Am Groot shorts hit Disney Plus. Loki and WandaVision got release dates for Blu-ray. Avengers Vault opened in Disney California Adventure. Several Disney Plus series got new release dates. Rogers the Musical wrapped up, and a cast album was released. First, we got a first look at the new vehicles for the Avengers Campus expansion attraction. Lego Avengers Code Red is a special that'll be coming to Disney Plus October 27th. Marvel Spider-Man 2 debuts October 20th, and Adidas is releasing a collaboration collection the same day. Werewolf by Night will release in color on October 20th. Tickets for the Marvels went on sale. Loki and OB arrived in Avengers Campus, Loki for the 100th time. Daredevil, Born Again, writers and directors were let go. That is all of the news, the relevant news at least, from the last 2 months.
That was 48 seconds, and I felt like it took a big jump in between a couple of those stories there. But
yeah, well, so they're not all entirely in order. I did.
So you're doing the Fall Out Boy version of "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Exactly. Yes. So there were a few things that were kind of lumped together there. Anything out of that? I mean, I'm sure you heard every single word I just said, and you picked out specifics that you would like to talk about.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that the Blu-ray thing happened after we went on hiatus. So the first Loki season 1 is now available on Blu-ray. WandaVision is coming up this month or next month.
It's in November. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but yeah, it's in November.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and I don't know why, because I don't need to have it on Blu-ray, but it's a really cool looking set. I just think it's fascinating that they're releasing these things on physical media, and I think Marvel shows are probably pretty safe.
Yeah,
but we've seen so many things removed from Disney Plus that it's nice to, if you have a show that you really like, to have that. And I also like a little bit of the meta nature of having a WandaVision physical release. So that'd be the one that I have my eye on, even though I will say, for me, I think I still put WandaVision at the top just because I really like the sitcom angle, whereas Becca, she says that Loki's risen to the top for her. So I don't know if she wants that set, but that's where we're at. And then the other story that you can comment on that in a second, but I saw that we got a new look at the colorized. Well, it's not really colorized; it's in color. So they probably it's unblack and whited basically. But I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I just saw that you posted that. So how does that look? And then
I believe it was just a poster that was released.
Okay.
A look at.
I'm only looking at the headlines in in our Slack channel when I wake up.
Yeah, look at Jack Russell, the character in the poster, not in black and white. Yes, exactly. They removed the Instagram filter to show us Werewolf by Night. So yeah, that's coming October 20th. I'm interested in that. I don't know, there's been several interviews with Michael Giacchino. I've only kind of skimmed them. I don't really see the appeal of being like, oh, well, I watched it in black and white. I can't wait to see it in color. I will watch it again anyway. I would go back and watch the black and white one. It's it's Halloween season, looking for something spooky to watch. I loved Werewolf by Night. So I think it's cool that they're releasing it in color. I'm sure some people will appreciate that. It's not something that really got me excited, though.
I will say that the only thing I can kind of compare it to is I once got a chance to see there's the original cut of Kill Bill, which it's parts 1 and 2 together. And as part of that, there's the scene where the Crazy 88, it's in color instead of black and white. So similar idea there.
Okay. Yeah, at least that one has some more difference, though, with the two films being cut together. This is, going to be the same. But yeah, so let's see. What else was there? I actually haven't watched the new I Am Groot shorts yet. And
I still haven't watched the original I Am Groot shorts.
You know what? They were fun. I think definitely geared towards a younger audience. You can enjoy them on one of your very, long flights you have coming up very soon here. You can burn through them in a few minutes, to be honest. The Avengers Vault store in Disney California Adventure is pretty cool. Did you get a chance to see that?
I saw the photos. It reminds me a lot of the Avengers store that they have. Well, it's attached to the Spider-Man ride, but the one in Paris. Right. So I don't know if they copied that aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it was pretty similar to really just all of Avengers Campus in general. Like, it didn't really break the mold or anything. Not that you would expect it to. But it was cool that they got all of the Infinity Stone, items, all of the artifacts over there, because we've had them here in Walt Disney World for quite a while, and now they are available. And actually, got the Tesseract right here. So, clearly my
collection. The TVA, because now it's just a paperweight.
Right. Yes, exactly. That is pretty much what it is, actually. It's just kind of not serving much of a purpose here in my office. There were a bunch of Disney Plus, as you would expect with the strikes. There were a lot of delays. So what if season 2 got pushed back to around Christmas Day, which actually I'm a little bit surprised. I'm curious to see if that gets delayed again. I haven't really heard anything about it in a while. So I'm curious to see if that does come. And that is this year. That is supposed to be coming out in really, which is crazy to say right now, but just a couple of months. So we're not that
including the episode that we should have got last time.
Right. The character that was revealed a long time ago. Echo is now set for January 2024. That was originally supposed to come out in November. X-Men is now X-Men 97, early 2024. And then Agatha, I don't even know what to call this show anymore. I refuse to accept a new name until the show is out. They just keep changing it. It is now apparently Darkhold Diaries.
Apparently that's a bit that I don't quite understand, except the only thing I can figure is it's been Agatha all along.
Sure. I guess that's what we'll go with. That is early fall 2024. So that got pushed back from this winter. So that was a long delay for that one.
Aubrey Plaza is too busy telling people how to make marga rights instead of marga wrongs. So she had to
those commercials are painful.
They're on so often. Whatever we're watching, it must be like Pluto or whatever.
And I love Aubrey Plaza. Those commercials are tough to watch. Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Wonder Man were all completely removed from the schedule. Did we ever even really officially get the Wonder Man announcement? I know it's definitely happening, but I feel like they never really presented it.
No, because there's never been a forum for it. You're right. Kevin Feige's never stood on stage, as far as I know, and said they're doing it. It was just one of those things that gets reported in the trades. Yeah,
and even in the trades, I've seen Variety and stuff like that, talking about it, but not Marvel.com. So that's pretty interesting that was even news that it got removed from the schedule. Speaking of Daredevil Born Again, though, we just got the news yesterday or 2 days ago. Time is all blending together. Thanks, Loki. That Marvel has, what's the word I want to use here? I mean, I guess they released the writers from Daredevil Born Again, as well as the directors. Supposedly they watched 4 episodes and said, this ain't it, and decided to go in a different direction almost entirely. They are using some of the footage from what they shot already, but other than that, they are completely reshooting the show. From what I heard, too, Daredevil did not show up as Daredevil until the 4th episode. So that was a pretty interesting decision. It was a legal procedural up until that point. So I don't know. Did you get a chance to look into this at all?
I did not, but now I want a legal procedural. Just like I said with the She-Hulk thing, I'm like, I'm on board with
Right.
this version of the show. It's fine. Yeah, no. So it's not unusual in movies for there to, it's very rare to have someone that starts off with the first draft be the person who writes the last draft. Like you're going to get
Mhm.
fired at some point and get rewritten. But to do a TV show episodes in, and I also don't know if it would have happened if production didn't pause. They might have just plowed ahead if things were different. I can't look into that version of the reality, but yeah, definitely an interesting situation.
Yeah, and the buzz about this story has been all about, sort of having like Marvel having to restructure the way they do their television products and approaching it more like TV as opposed to films. I don't know how much I buy into there was one of the big takeaways from it was that they didn't really use a showrunner as much as they had like a creative head that sort of guided the vision, which is essentially what a showrunner is anyway. So I don't know. I mean, you being more in tune with the business, did this stand out to you in any way? Like that's what everybody's talking about, is that Marvel is going to have to change the way they're doing things.
I mean, I guess you could kind of see that in that the way that these shows are, each episode varies in runtime greatly. Sometimes they start off really long and then get shorter. So it does almost have that feel like they made a really long movie and then chopped it up. They still have, beats that they end on that make sense a lot of the time, like you would for a TV show. But I guess it would make sense to have someone who's seeing the entire thing through and really planning it out like a show. But it's also, I don't think that's just unique to Marvel. I think that's streaming in general. I feel probably have a little bit different. They don't have the same constraints as network television shows, and that's just how it is. So if this isn't unique to the Marvel shows, there's several shows that do the same sort of thing that kind of feel like we're going to tell this story and we're just going to chop it up wherever we see fit, rather than we need to make a 22-minute story 10 times or whatever.
Yeah, I feel it feels to me like everybody is like waiting to jump on that opportunity of like, oh, this is it. This is what ruins Marvel. This is the end of the Marvel Studios movies. I don't know. I feel like everybody's waiting for it, and I don't see it coming. Like everything that people are blowing up about seems like such a small, minor issue to me. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see if anything happens with Daredevil Born Again and then other television shows going forward. Not too many other things I wanted to hit on, but real quick, the Marvel Studios visual effects workers unionizing, that was a pretty big story. And again, you are more in tune with the industry than I am, but that seems to be like a game changer, really. Like that is something that could see a shift in Hollywood in general.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I was surprised that they weren't already. I just assume most Hollywood trade, like not trades as in magazines, but trades as in service. But yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, good for them. That's where I stand on that. But I'm glad to see that works or is working out so far. We'll see how things go in the future. But yeah, so that's one thing, and then nothing else other than to say I'm so excited for Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5, October 20th. And if you haven't seen that Adidas collection, the tease they gave of the shoes, I'm already trying to come up with a number in mind that is my price limit for whether or not I buy these things, because they are awesome. But yeah, that again, October.
All day you dream about Spider-Man.
What was that?
I said all day you dream about Spider-Man.
Nice. Well played. And that's definitely what that stands for. I highly recommend checking out those shoes. Again, that collection, and it's supposed to have hoodies, t-shirts, everything. So that collection will drop on October 20th with the game. But yeah, that is it. Was there anything else in news that you want to talk about before we get into Loki?
Are you going to buy any of the Blu-rays?
Probably not. I tend to not buy. I'm okay with streaming, like I don't mind. I prefer being able to just take my remote and hit a button as opposed to actually getting off my couch and putting a disc in. I get the I want to know what like video files that people are like, oh, well, this one's this ratio and whatever. That doesn't bother me. So probably not, other than it is a really cool collector thing. So I don't know. I'm leaning no right now.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, let's jump into our discussion of Loki, because again, we do have 2 episodes to talk about this week. So we're going to start off with the season 2 premiere. Again, the first season 2 for any Marvel show on Disney Plus. So that in itself was exciting. There was a lot of buzz about the show. Obviously, the big story, one of the big stories around Marvel and their actors, was Jonathan Majors. And so you mentioned, and by the way, I'm a few episodes behind on Assembled as well. I haven't caught up. I think I'm like 3 or 4 now that I have to watch. But you mentioned in the Quantum Mania Assembled that Jonathan Majors is featured in there. Not super prominently, but it's not like they really completely cut him out.
Right. Yeah, it's very minimal, like maybe 2 talking head segments compared to everybody else, but still, yeah, they're there.
Yeah, and I did see reports before Loki premiered that they thought it would have been premature to completely cut him out of the show. And so they decided to just go with what they had. And I mean, it makes sense when you're this close to the release of the show anyway. But
and when you have not actual set pieces, but set pieces in the world that are just giant versions of
right.
course.
Which was what was interesting to me is that the season kicks off literally just a shot of Jonathan Majors' face. It's in a giant stone statue, but there he is right off the bat. You know, it almost felt like Marvel's like, here it is. We're not. It was. You know what it reminded me of? Rhodey in Iron Man 2 saying, "It's me. I'm here. Deal with it. Let's move on." Don Cheadle taking over the role. So it felt like Marvel was like doing the same thing there. Like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. If we have to deal with this situation going forward, we will. But for now, Jonathan Majors is Kang. So that's what we've got. The big sort of catalyst of this first episode is Loki's time slipping. And that doesn't just mean coming live from a different time zone. He is inadvertently or involuntarily jumping through time, going into the past and the future, but within the TVA, which I thought was interesting. And they do address it later on. Mobius says that's not possible. The TVA doesn't work that way. And then, honestly, thinking about it too long wrinkled my brain. I was like, but if this is what where they control time, where time is created, how are you moving? It's too much. I'm going to break the entire podcast if I think about it again.
Well, that's why originally I thought that he was moving branches instead of actual time linear.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I think that is what they wanted you to think, because when he gets into an accident and something falls from the ceiling and puts a big crack in the floor, and then he time slips to another point in time, and you see that crack. And so you know at that point that like, oh, he is in the same timeline, which again, I guess, I don't know, there's only one timeline in the TVA, right? I have no idea. But so I thought it was interesting. Actually, there were points where I thought he was in the past, or I thought he was in the future, but he was actually in the past. And I didn't. And actually, we're going to jump a little bit right now because I might as well jump. I thought in the scene where he gets the information that Ravonna is working for He Who Remains, I thought was in the future, because he mentions you were a big help in this war. I thought it was talking about the war that is coming. Apparently, we got the answer in the second episode that was actually in the past, which I guess makes sense too, because he does know about the Kang faces behind the giant table and opens that whole thing up. But yeah, I don't know. Were you following that as they intended?
Probably not. No, this is one of those things. I haven't rewatched the episode yet, and I want to, but no, definitely first pass. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm not gonna dive. I don't have a job to do where I need to break down this episode or anything.
No, I was gonna say no. That is probably the way to go, to not really try and understand all the intricacies in the moment. But yeah, it's a little bit different when you have to write a recap as soon as you finish watching the episode. So yeah, it's interesting seeing him jump back and forth, through past, present, future in the TVA. Of course, that bit only lasts for this first episode. so we don't get any more of that. But we got that interesting information that Ravonna, which we'll talk a little bit more about, working for He Who Remains. We get introduced to a few new characters. We meet early on General Dox, X5, which is one of the hunters, and Judge Gamble. Was that a salute for General Dox?
Yes.
Dox comes across almost immediately as like, okay, she's sort of the mid-tier villain here. Like she's going to be a problem. Same with X5, actually, although he's more of like the foot soldier of the new villain. And then Judge Gamble, I wasn't sure what to make of. Did you have any thoughts on these new characters as we met them?
No, it's kind of because they're kind of going back and forth, so you don't really know where everyone. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to follow as far as like how the debate went and what was happening, and then just very interesting looking characters as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. They definitely went for a unique look with each one of them. But you're right. It was interesting listening to that debate and being like, I'm not even sure what side I'm on right now. And like, what are they supposed to be doing? Well, who are we supposed to be rooting for? I mean, obviously, you're rooting for Loki and Mobius and B-15, but what do I want to happen out of everything that's going on with the TVA? And that is one of those moments where you're like, I kind of just have to be along for the ride here instead of trying to break everything down. But yeah, those characters, and X5 has a much bigger role in the second episode, but it was a introduction of a few interesting characters right off the bat there. Like I said, we then find out that Renslayer is working for He Who Remains, and this was interesting because these two characters do have a lot of history in the comics, so they go back and forth between being allies and being enemies, being in a romantic relationship at times. So I like that they tied these two characters together. Again, we don't really know exactly how just yet. I think it's possible still that was in the future and in the past. It's impossible to completely know for sure. But yeah, I do like that they tied them together, and I'm very curious to see now that He Who Remains is gone. I mean, first of all, is he gone? And what is Renslayer doing? If she's not working with him right now. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on what you would like to see from Renslayer here? Like, clearly they're building her up as sort of the villain in this.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting dynamic there.
No, I mean, I think maybe I've learned my lesson from past shows, but yeah, this one I'm just like really taking a back seat and just tell me what happens. I'm not going to sit here and try to theorize about it. There's just so much going on, and they're throwing on all this different lore, and we'll get to it. But I'm like, this latest episode, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I know exactly what happened.
Right.
But Mac will explain it to me, and that's my job on this show, is to be the dumb
one. This is probably the only instance where that could be the case between these two podcast hosts right here. So I like the way they're setting up Renslayer. I like that we spoiler alert, haven't seen her in the first two episodes. So they're kind of building this anticipation around her. And then we find out some more interesting things about her in the second episode. So yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever they decide to do with that character. We also meet, I mean, I don't know if another character has been more of an instant fan favorite than Obi. Ouroboros, played by Ke Huy Quan, I think is say Quan? Ke Huy Quan? He, the actor from Everything Everywhere All at Once and from Indiana Jones. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But so he comes on the screen and everybody instantly loves him. Was it the same reaction for you guys watching it?
Yeah, because we'd seen like the previews and stuff, and so my question was how much he was going to be used, and I thought when this episode was over, I was like, oh, okay, well, is that just his one thing? And then he popped back up in episode 2, so I'm glad that he's sticking around. The scene, jumping ahead, the scene where Loki slips to the past and then is telling the things,
yes,
and he's recalling them in real time. That was just an amazing I loved every bit of that. I thought that was really clever and well done.
That was really well done. I'm glad you brought that up because I could immediately hear the complaints, being typed away on keyboards around the internet, saying, well, Avengers Endgame said time travel doesn't work like this, and that's not, this is
So
inconsistent
Back to
with.
the Future is BS.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is in the TVA. It's time slipping. It's not the same thing. You weren't creating a branch timeline, so everything was different. You have to kind of take that, take everything and throw it away more or less because you are now in a completely new situation. So yeah, I really liked the way they handled that. That was a really fun scene. And yeah, OB is just awesome. And it looks like he's here to stay. It looks like he's a big role. Although I believe there is a 60% chance that he betrays Loki and Mobius.
Or doesn't. I forget what that. Yeah, we get sometimes at Laughing Place wanting us to write about stuff. And one of them was like Vegas bet makers making predictions about the show. And yeah, that one was 60% chance of betraying them, or it said, or teaming up with those are opposite things. What are you talking about?
And there's still only a 60% chance of either one of those happening. And those are also not betting odds. So I don't know what that was supposed to be for.
I would not recommend this bookie, apparently.
But yeah, I really, really like OB. I'm excited to see where he goes in the future or the past or whatever. Did you catch the idea that this whole I don't know what you call it, an engine that is creating raw time, that's creating timelines out of that? They call it the temporal loom. Did that stand out to you at all? I think we might have talked about this already too, but
well, I saw you told me about this. It didn't jump out to me, and then even when I Google it, it seems like it's a term and a thing that's been used a lot. So I don't know if it was intentional, but I really like your theory.
Yeah, no, it makes sense that it was like that. It's an existing term. I feel like they try to base these things in some level of existing science. But I have to imagine they were like, what if we call it the temporal loom? That's a real thing. And somebody had to be like, temporal loom. That's perfect because that sounds exactly like Temple of Doom, which is the Indiana Jones film that Ke Huy Quan is in as Short Round. So love that they kept having him say temporal loom over and over again. That was just awesome. Maybe it's nothing, but I thought that was a really cool little potential Easter egg, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be very curious. Maybe it'll be something that someone in the team will just take credit for, even if that wasn't the intention, or maybe they realize it halfway through. They're like, oh, that's funny. That's my guess. I don't know if they really planned it out and made, because at a certain point, like obviously his story, as he talked about it, like at the Oscars when he won and stuff, he's really embraced this narrative of I was a child actor. I didn't think I'd do anything again. Now I'm having this renaissance, but it's still a little weird to you're like, you get this new gig and the first thing we're going to do is reference the thing that until recently it was the only thing you were known for.
Right.
It's slightly insulting. So I don't know what to think about this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it could go either way, but like I said, it's probably nothing. They probably didn't even do it intentionally, but I like to think that somebody there at least was like, yeah, that's perfect. Let's go with that. So as they are working to solve Loki's time slipping problem, he does slip to the future again, or maybe for the time in the TVA, and has a vision of, well, I guess not a vision. He's in the future. It's literally happening around him. But he's watching the TVA crumble as all these branches are getting out of control. And here's a phone ring, which I thought was weird. Why is there just a phone like on a nightstand in the middle of this hallway? But he goes to approach the phone, and an elevator starts to open up slowly because Sylvie is prying her way through the doors. So he sees, all he knows is that in the future, the TVA is crumbling and Sylvie is there. So that's the information that he has. Then Mobius saves him from time slipping. And that's where we wrap up this first, season 2 premiere, except for the post or mid credit scene, whatever you want to call it. Before we get into that, though, was there anything else on the episode you wanted to touch on?
Yeah. So you mentioned like Loki's looking for the time stick to prune himself and sees Sylvie. And then he suddenly, I guess he does. So
yes.
I was unclear on, so we don't know who pruned him, right?
Right. Yes. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, he gets pruned. Like you see the prune or the time stick behind him as he is pruned, which is what was planned. He had to be pruned in order to get out of, I don't know, come back into the temporal loom somehow. But we don't see who it was that pruned him. So that's interesting. I think I even said this in my recap of the episode that I think the money is on Ravana right now. That would probably be my guess, but who knows? We have several episodes to go before we probably see that moment happening, in real time. So yeah, that's another interesting sort of plot point that they've set up for us in the future. But like I said, we do get a post-credit scene in this episode. We see Sylvie arrive on what they tell us is a branch timeline. So I do like that they're doing this. I noticed this in the second episode. They are telling us when you arrive anywhere outside the TVA, they give you the year, the location, and then whether or not it's the branch timeline or a branch timeline or the sacred timeline. So we do see that Sylvie is in a new branch timeline in, I think it's 1982, something like that. And she is in Broxton, Oklahoma, which to probably 90% of people watching means nothing. Who cares? Doesn't matter what city in Oklahoma she's in. But I love, and it probably does mean nothing, but I love that they chose Broxton, Oklahoma, because that is the site of New Asgard in the comics, in a really great comic story called Siege, in which Norman Osborn has taken over the Avengers and he leads the Dark Avengers, which is, all different. The Bullseye is Hawkeye and he's Iron Patriot. Venom is Spider-Man. So he has his Dark Avengers and he goes to take on New Asgard. So it's a war between them and the Asgardians. Really, really good story. Takes place in Broxton, Oklahoma. Not saying they're going to do that story, but I just love that they at least threw a little nod in there. So really cool.
That's cool. I had no idea of that. Is Broxton, is that a real place in Oklahoma? Do you know?
You know what? I've always assumed it is. They use Stamford, Connecticut for the Civil War comic story, and that one is real. So I assume Broxton is real as well. I'm sure somebody.
Right, maybe I'll drive through it sometime. I do. I've been to Oklahoma. I've driven through Oklahoma. I've never really spent much time there, but I do live next. The state I live in, when I'm not in Hong Kong, borders Oklahoma. So I'm gonna go find out.
I live right next door to Oklahoma.
It's okay.
And then, as you mentioned, Sylvie does end that episode with getting the Zootopia song stuck in our heads by saying she wants to try everything. So clearly, the idea is she's found this new home. She's done with the TVA. She's going to live in this.
She's discovered McDonald's.
She's discovered McDonald's in the 80s too. Yeah, so that was great. By the way, I didn't touch on this in the news, but did you see the McDonald's in Brooklyn that did the full Loki makeover?
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, this is a little bit earlier than I remember because I was born in '86. So, but there's elements of this version of '80s McDonald's that I remember from my childhood. So I wouldn't say that this is nostalgia, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of remember parts of this.
No, I would agree. Even being born, in 90, I think there were elements of it that kind of lasted into the 90s. Like the brown floor felt so like, yeah, that is sort of nostalgic. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that.
The menu with the little words on it that you have to slide in instead of just being
digital
rotating screens that
will
always interrupt when you're trying to look at what you want. Although if you don't know what you want at McDonald's, I don't know what you're like. Does anyone have to think about their McDonald's order at a certain point?
Right. No, and it's whatever number of chicken nuggets you can handle and a Big Mac. That's pretty much, and the soda of your choice.
And always use the app so you can get $1 large fries. That's a pro tip from Kyle.
Does that work in Hong Kong as well?
Probably not. I haven't. I will say I'm very proud of myself. I have not eaten in a McDonald's here yet. So
good for you. I hope you're
there
enjoying.
Is a Starbucks right downstairs, so I can't resist that. But I did get something you can't get. Well, I would say it's something that they don't pre-pack. They don't offer in America. I'm sure you could have them make it, but it's an espresso matcha fusion.
Okay,
it's quite good. They also have a hojicha latte that I haven't had this time yet, so that's on my list of things to do
this time.
This time. I've been here a couple of times, and you know, I'm a creature of habit. I stay in the same hotel because I really liked it the last time. I go to the Starbucks and I get the same drinks that I can't necessarily get in America, and it's what I do.
No, I think I'm with you. If I was to go multiple times, like if I was to go to Hong Kong for the first time, I'd be trying all new stuff. But then when I went back a second time, I'd probably fall into the same, like you said, the same hotel and that kind of stuff. But this was a nice little detour to break up the two episodes of Loki. But let's jump into exactly. Let's jump into episode 2 here. And like I said, X5, that the hunter who was working for General Dox, plays a much bigger role in this episode, and we meet him early on. They jump right into 1977 London, again on the sacred timeline. They let us know that, which thank you for that, because it makes my job so much easier to follow. But we meet X5 as Brad Wolf, a movie star who is starring in a new movie called Zzzax. They're at his premiere, which was really cool. Another little Easter egg they threw in there. We talked about this a while. I mean, we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but you can check it out on laughingplace.com. We got a quick glimpse of the sort of movie marquee from this scene in a trailer a while back. And Zzzax is actually a little-known Thor villain who is a movie star who is playing an alien creature, but as he's playing the alien creature, actually gets infected with an alien parasite that then takes over his body and forces him to kill women. Marvel Comics in the 80s or whatever this was, I think early 80s, was pretty dark. So I like that they throw this little nod to this character in there. I was curious if we were going to see a version of Zzzax. Obviously, once I knew that Brad Wolf was this hunter from the TVA, I was like, okay, well, they are going to go in a different direction, and they're just going to kind of give us a nod to him. But yeah, it would have been cool to see, if we're going to jump around timelines, again, this is the sacred timeline, but if we're going to jump around different timelines, that opens up a lot of doors to throw any crazy character they could possibly want at us. So that was a pretty cool little tease there, I think.
Again, you're pointing out things I had no idea about, but that's fine.
Yeah, and this is one that, like, I said 90% for something before. Far fewer, I think, knew about Zzzax. This was a really deep cut character. I think he made 3 comic book appearances, something like that, right around there. It's like single digits.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, not many appearances at all. Not a very well known character. Not a great character either. So probably well handled. But yeah, their whole plot is with this episode is them capturing X5 because they know he's working for General Dox, and they know General Dox is searching for Sylvie, and they're trying to find Sylvie. So that's the whole sort of plot of this episode in general. We do also get the little side plot of that Casey, who you might remember as the guy who, pointed out the Tesseract as a paperweight in season 1, sort of the nerdy desk jockey receptionist guy. He is tasked with finding Renslayer, which is pretty interesting. And he lets us know that the last message on her Renslayer's temp pad was sent from or to Miss Minutes. So Miss Minutes is working with Renslayer, Miss Minutes being the AI, I guess, that runs the TVA in the place of He Who Remains. So interesting that she has this potential power over the TVA. We find out later on that they need Miss Minutes, so that's going to become a big plot point too. Is it's almost more important for them to find Miss Minutes than it is to find Renslayer. So some interesting stuff going on with those characters there. I'm a little surprised actually that we've gotten through 2 full episodes now without seeing Miss Minutes at all.
It happens.
More often though, I think what happens is studios will see like, oh, people love this character, we got to throw her in there like way more. And I definitely would have thought we would have seen her by now.
I will say, I think my favorite part about this episode was just seeing Loki in full detective mode. Like there were beats that felt like Law and Order.
Oh yeah, no, there really were, especially in the interrogation, I thought.
Yeah, but even before that, like when they're sitting, just kind of talking it out, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's go. We got it. I liked the dynamic between Loki and Mobius in this episode.
Yeah, and speaking of, we do get an interesting development with Mobius. In that interrogation with Brad Wolf, Brad sets there. It's funny because Mobius sets it up like, "Hey, don't let him get under your skin," telling that to Loki, thinking Loki would be the one that would do
Walk
something
it
stupid
off.
in there. But Mobius is the one that gets agitated by Brad, and he hits Brad, and then they have to take him out and go cool off, like he said. Yeah, so they
It's been like this ever since we switched.
I've been watching a different show with Danny Pudi in it, by the way, and it's so weird to see him as a different character. Mythic Quest, yeah. He's great. He's great in it, by the way.
Have you seen the episode where he talks about DuckTales?
Yes, I just watched it today. Anyway, yeah, so there's this interesting development with Mobius where Brad's whole thing was he learned the truth about the TVA. He learned that they were all plucked from the sacred timeline. They had their memories wiped, and he he wanted to go back and find his real life. By the way, Mobius had a great line in season 1 or episode 1 too, where he's like, "I have no memory of my memory being wiped," which I thought was great. But then, so after we hear,
can I tell you about a great sign I saw in Hong Kong? There was a low-hanging awning, and it said, "Mind your head," and I was like, "Whoa, that's heavy."
That is great. Kyle, I might need you to pick up a sign for me on your way home too. No, so again, the whole thing with Brad is he wanted to go back and sort of reclaim his real life on the sacred timeline. Mobius, though, he lets Brad get under his skin, and then Loki says they get into a conversation later on, and Loki's like, "Aren't you curious? Don't you want to go see, what your real life is?" And he's like, "No, if I get that in my head, that's going to mess me up. That's going to totally, I like my life here in the TVA. This is what I do." So that's an interesting, man, like opens up a real philosophical
the man that brought me this pie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, as they're enjoying their key lime pie, which you can now get in Avengers Campus in Disney California Adventure. Because of course you can. I've never been a big key lime fan, by the way, but that did look really good.
Have you ever had a key lime LaCroix?
No, I haven't.
It's really good. It's like, It defies logic. You're like, how is this so sweet and flavorful when it's just sparkling water with nothing else in it except for obviously some sort of flavoring that doesn't have sugar or anything? Yeah, it's crazy. But I enjoy it. It's not an everyday drink, but it's when you see it, give it a shot.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for that one right now. I have beach plum in my fridge right now, so that's been my go-to flavor lately. But yeah, so there's that interesting development with Mobius. Be curious to see what they do, on that storyline going forward. But something to keep an eye on. We then get to the new timeline. I don't know if they ever gave it a number or anything like they have, like Earth 616 or anything like that. But Sylvie's timeline is what we'll call it for storytelling purposes. And we see that she's working in the McDonald's now, which is really funny. And Loki goes and tries to, basically to bring her back. He explains that vision he had or the future he experienced in the TVA where everything was going wrong. And he saw her there and he's asking her, "Why were you there?" Of course, she doesn't know because that's in the future. There's an interesting conversation there too about Loki says, "Well, this is in the future, so it's going to happen." And she says, "Is it? Or is that sounds like you're saying it's pre-written like what He Who Remains was saying?" So there's this, dynamic of Loki sort of becoming the villain they fought in the first season. So a lot of cool stuff going on with Loki and Sylvia there.
This season of Loki is actually an allegory about the NFL. I don't know if you knew that.
Because everything is scripted. Yeah. Everything's predetermined. Wrestling and the NFL aren't fake. They're scripted. We then get the big the big event of this episode, which is General Dox's plan was to quietly bomb all of those new timelines. So she has a team of her loyalists, these Minutemen who are working just for her. I could not really grasp the plan that they were explaining, that there was this central hub that was using all of these time doors, and that was somehow making it quicker for them to get to each timeline to bomb them. I don't know, but that's what they were doing. And so Loki, Mobius, and Sylvie jump in and stop her, but not until after she bombed. I think the only number they said was 30% of the timelines are already gone, but by the end of it, it looks like it's like 95%. Like there's only a few timelines, few branch timelines still there. So, and you know, to us, obviously that's like, well, whatever. These are these timelines we've never seen before, nothing consequential. But to them, this is, you know, there were people living lives on those timelines. So, you know, Docs really just completely dwarfed Thanos' body count there in a matter of seconds. So that was way to make her the biggest villain in the history of the MCU really quickly.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you try to, like I said, I don't want to do because I'm always going to be wrong. But yeah, if you extrapolate that and you think about those branch time, like obviously the MCU with the multiverse and stuff, those are partially like branch timelines and stuff. So what effect does that have? Is there a difference between multiverse and branch timelines? Are those synonymous? Are those different?
Right.
All these questions.
No, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because this reminded me a lot of something that did happen in the comics, the quote unquote death of the Marvel Universe in the 2015 Secret Wars event. The first issue ends with universes basically colliding and they're all just destroyed. And so you are left with one universe. And that is a way to basically be like, yeah, we have the multiverse set up. This is how we get back to normal. Now we're back down to this one timeline. So it reminded me a lot of that. But I do think, obviously, we're not done. This is the multiverse saga, right? So we're not done with the multiverse just yet. There's still a lot of time for that temporal loom to start looming other things. So, yeah.
You don't even know how a loom works, do you? You didn't read the TVA handbook.
I did not, which I the entire time I've been thinking they are going to sell the crap out of that book. They can absolutely get that out there in the park.
In like a year, like why did they just come out with the Scott Lang book? Like I completely forgot about it by now.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much where we end up. The only other thing we see is that Sylvie's timeline did survive the attack. She goes back and has this really awkward interaction with somebody she works with at McDonald's, some kid, which weird way to end that episode, but clearly she's still happy on this new timeline. So that's what we end up with.
Yeah. And speaking of happy, I love that guy whose name I just forgot, got to meet OB. He was.
Oh, Casey. Yes.
Yeah. Casey, which I'm happy for OB. He had just Mobius twice in however many years. And now he's got all these new visitors coming to hang out with him. But yeah, that was a cute scene where he's talking about you wrote this? I practically have it memorized. Yeah.
Had his fanboy moment there.
Yeah.
So that was really cool too. But yeah, I think Loki season 2 is off to a great start. I think the first episode was an awesome, just the perfect way to kick off this second season. Super, I think the word I used in the headline was frantic. It just felt like action heavy wasn't the right word because it wasn't like a bunch of fights or anything, but it was just the pacing was incredibly fast and everything was just sort of out of control. So I think they got off to a really strong start and I'm excited. I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of this season.
Yeah, no, it's good to have the show back. Even if I don't understand it all the time, I'm enjoying the ride.
Well, and of course, that means it's also good to be back. We will have weekly episodes, we think, going forward.
It's good to be back.
Great. Now you're going to get Boo to You stuck in my head for the rest of the night. Thanks.
They were playing at the park yesterday. I walk into Hong Kong Disneyland. The first thing I hear is "It's Halloween, everybody." Like this is all I want in life.
I don't know if there was more of an earworm song for me than Boo to You. That gets stuck in my head so much. But yeah, so we will be back with weekly episodes breaking down Loki season 2. Like we said, we're going to get back into our normal format too. We'll have a draft. We'll have our usual games, things like that. Next week might be a little weird too, but we'll see, and you'll see why.
Good weird.
Good weird. Maybe we'll see. Again, I don't know. But yeah, so weekly episodes again. We're going to be breaking down Loki. Then, this pretty much goes right into the Marvels too. So we'll have a few things to talk about in the coming weeks. So anything else, Kyle? I think we're good to wrap things up here. Is there anything going on that we should be plugging that I'm not aware of?
That's a great question. Disney's 100th is on Monday. I
Oh
think it's
wow,
the
that's
same,
Monday already.
the 16th. So there's plenty of content, not necessarily Marvel related, on Laughing Place. You can check out. You can check out my Frozen stuff from Hong Kong, and I'll be going back, so I'll take some photos of the Marvel merch and stuff. A lot of it, I will say, one little disappointing thing is Becca's noticed that a lot of the stuff that we're finding in Hong Kong this time around is just stuff you can find on Shop Disney back in America.
Okay.
So it feels like they're really like kind of generalized. That's not to say there's not exclusive stuff, but it feels a little bit more general than it has been in the past. But there's still some fun things. I almost bought the little Throg shoulder thing because he's
Nice.
doing the math. He's a little like a few dollars cheaper here, but
Very
it's
cool.
fun. So like in Hong Kong, a Hong Kong dollar is like you have to divide by 8 almost to get it to American. So
Okay.
you just look at the price like this is $200, and you have to sit there and think about what that actually means.
Right. Yeah, that's math that I just don't want to do. Since you're not finding really all that much new merchandise, why don't you just swing on up to Tokyo while you're over there, just so we cover all of our bases. I'm sure you'll find some new stuff there.
No, sorry, I'm flying through Seoul this time, not
Oh,
through
that's
Japan.
cool. Have you ever been to Seoul before?
The airport.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
no,
Well,
I want to
it's
go
supposed to be a
to,
really
I
nice
want to
airport.
go to
so-
actual Seoul. It's on my list. Eventually, I'll visit a city that doesn't have a Disney park. That's my guarantee. I don't know when that'll happen, but it'll be eventually.
I do know, or at least I think, Disney Trivia Live will be back tomorrow night. So you will have that on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. And again, we will be back next week. It's looking like Fridays will be our usual for this. We think with Loki debuting. By the way, what do you think of the new debut time for
Well, I've
the
only
episode?
taken advantage of it once because I was actually home. It was fun to watch it at 8 p.m. for us because it's 6 p.m. Pacific and we're in Central. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do this all along.
Right.
I'm also glad that it has stood up. Like I was worried that if they did this in the past, it would have had issues every time. Like if around like launch, like a new Mandalorian, like during that first season, I would feel like both based on the popularity of that show being like the only one on the platform at the time and just how young the platform was, that it would have crashed every time at 6
That's
p.m.
true.
So now that it's a little bit more mature
Yeah.
and built out better, I think it makes a ton of sense. I see them doing this going forward. I guess but maybe not for every show, just for the popular ones, which I guess is kind of going to be a line in the sand to see which shows they think are important enough to get this premiere treatment and which ones just end up midnight.
Yeah, I would guess that'll be Marvel and Star Wars going forward, but
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe we'll get something. Speaking of Disney Plus, by the way, as we wrap things up here, I will give a quick plug for the new Goosebumps show that just hit Disney Plus today for the first 5 episodes, and then another episode every Friday going forward. I think it's 10 episodes in total. So you can check out my review of that show on laughingplace.com right now. Love it. I absolutely love it. I was a big fan of the 90s series. I grew up on Goosebumps, so really, really love this new show. I think they did an awesome job of it's not like it does the fan service for fans of the book series and the original show, but also they weave together a really good story, and it's a little bit creepy for Disney Plus, so I'm a little surprised. So I think that's something I would recommend checking out on Disney Plus now.
Guillermo del Toro's Disney Double Dare You finally makes its way.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us for another episode of the Zzzax of Live podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye everyone. Oh, hang on.